Kristóf Veres, International Director of the Danube Institute, and it's my pleasure and honor to welcome everyone to our event V3, Regional Cooperation After the Czech Parliamentary Elections. Well, Hungarians have been obsessed by the Visegrad cooperation since 1335, when the King of Hungary, Poland, and Bohemia met in Visegrad. Well, now, after the war in Ukraine started, there was a fracture in this regional cooperation, but after the change of government last year in Slovakia, and now after the election in the Czech Republic, there is hope for reinvigorated regional cooperation, and this is what this panel is going to talk about. Our panel is going to be moderated by Balázs Tárnok, Director of Research at the John Lukács Institute for Strategy and Politics. His panelists include Karel Schál, analyst at the IPPS Institute for Politics and Society, Péter Szitás, senior researcher at the Danube Institute, and our last speaker, Juraj Šuš, chairman of the Ladislav Hanus Institute, is late because of an accident on the highway, but he is going to arrive soon, hopefully. Balázs, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kristóf. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our panel discussion. As you know, just a few weeks ago, the Czech Republic held parliamentary elections, and Mr. Andrej Babiš secured a clear victory for himself and for his party, and now he's forming a governing coalition with two right-leaning partners. These elections may actually reshape the political landscape in Central Europe. The coalition agreement has been signed, and now the Czech cabinet is expected to take office probably in December. Mr. Babiš said that up to mid-December it should be done. These developments, however, is not just a matter of domestic politics in Prague, but they, in fact, may have far-reaching consequences for and implications for the entire region, especially when Czechia's, Hungary's, and Slovakia's cooperation is concerned. Today we face several questions, several horizontal general questions, including the one that will the political shifts in Prague bring about the revival of the V4, or should it be resolved in a more flexible way of trilateral form of cooperation? Can the region speak with a stronger and more coherent voice in European affairs, including on issues on energy policy, agriculture, migration, or the war in Ukraine? And perhaps the most important question is whether can this cooperation move beyond rhetoric toward a genuinely strategic partnership that enhances Central Europe's influence inside the EU. I look forward to a open and forward-looking conversation, and it's my great honor to moderate discussion. And having that in mind, these general questions, let's start with the evaluation of the Czech election itself. And I shall ask Karel first that how do you evaluate the Czech parliamentary elections, the results of these elections? What messages or regional trends do you see reflected in these results? And what do you think how this will influence bilateral relations of Czechia, specifically with Hungary and Slovakia?
Thank you for the question. Hello, everybody. My name is Karel Schál. I'm from Prague, from the Institute for Politics and Society, which is think tank of ANO Party, and I also working as a part of campaign team for ANO Party. So I was part of those elections. I'm doing it from 2016. So my experience is broad, but I'm more the analyst than talking guy. So be nice to me. But I can answer all your questions. I'm here for it. So, what happened in Czech Republic generally? You must know that ANO received the most votes in history of Czech Republic. Never other parties in history of Czech Republic from 1996 never received that much votes. That was caused by higher turnout and especially mobilization of peripheral areas of Czech Republic. That means that elections brings people who are not really connected to particular party, because when you saw this analysis, social demographic analysis, you can see that many of those voters which are from those peripheral areas like Northern Bohemia, Northern Silesia and Northern Moravia, they weren't at the booth like 15 years, yeah, and that's changed in 2025, and it was caused by many factors. The main factor was war in Ukraine, which caused really intensive inflation pressures in Czech Republic, especially in area of energy prices, prices of services, prices of food, and similar areas. Second point and second factor was a relatively poor performance of current government, of Petr Fiala's government, because they won in 2021 with a lot of promises, with a lot of plans to manage Czech state better, to provide better services for the voters. And after 4 years, many supporters of current governing coalitions realized that those was only premises, not a real thing. And third factor was really good performance of ANO marketing. To be honest, the ANO made a lot of changes in their team. They realized that in 2021 they made a lot of mistakes, so they focused this only to campaign and how to perform this campaign better. So this is, I think, the three main factors what caused this very really huge victory for ANO party. And now is the chairman Andrej Babiš is forming new governing coalition. In those days, the process is undergoing right now. So that's all. Thank you.
One complimentary question, if I may, to you, Karel. Do you expect Petr Pavel interfering into the nominations of the government? Now we cannot read names. Babiš told yesterday, after meeting with the president, that he's going to submit the list of his proposals for ministers as soon as the negotiations are ready. Are you expecting that Petr Pavel is going to veto any of those proposals?
There, information, public information and internal information. So I'll stick the public information. So Petr Pavel is going to have clash with Mr. Babiš because he insists that his conflict of interest is a problem to be prime minister. So he wants Mr. Babiš to explain to the public the way how he will deal with this problem. And I think this is the factor and only a playable card of current President Pavel. So I think it can be major issue in the next few weeks. But Mr. Babiš said many times publicly that he will manage this problem according to Czech law and European law. So I think there is some solution is undergoing now.
Thank you. Peter, how do you see the Czech election from a Hungarian point of view? What does it mean for Hungarian-Czech bilateral relations?
Thank you very much for the question, and thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for spending your afternoon with us. So, I strongly do believe that when we were watching on the television the pictures, the live broadcast from Prague and from the ANO's headquarters after winning the election, making a historical win in the Czech elections, in parallel with those celebrations, there were also champagnes being opened both in Budapest and both in Bratislava. And this is not a coincidence. So, from a Hungarian perspective, the result and the final outcome of these elections are the best what we can imagine. Because Andrej Babiš and Viktor Orbán have been allies for many years, and not just on a bilateral level, but also on a European one. So we saw in 2024 when, with little Austrian help, these two gentlemen established the European Group for Patriots in Brussels. And also we saw the scenes, if I may little bit widen the perspective and also speak from a Slovak perspective, we also saw how Andrej Babiš tried to help and even helped Robert Fico during his election campaign, and how Robert Fico tried to help Andrej Babiš in his. So here in Budapest, we do believe that, as Christoph in his opening speech have told, that Visegrad was, Visegrad is, and Visegrad will be. So the fact that the stars on the sky not always stand in a fortunate manner, it's one thing. But on the other thing, the most important, it has a paramount importance that these countries need each other. Because without each other, they are weak. But with each other, they can make reforms, not just locally, but even on a European level. We saw this in 2025, and I think we are about to see it in the near future again.
Thank you. When it comes to the actual deepness of cooperation, it's often debated that how deep this cooperation will be. And it has basically two approaches, from the perspective of the V4 and from the perspective of the cooperation in separate policy fields. Let's approach the first one. Do you expect the revival of the V4 after this election, or do you expect much rather a V3, as it is titled in the event title? So, of course, we know that the revival of the V4 means and requires Poland. Can the V3 include Poland, or will it be only V3 plus 1 in the future?
We are waiting for polls. Elections will be in 2 years, and Právo a Spravedlnost can do it. So that depends on election results in Poland in 2 years. In these times, it will be V3 cooperation definitely, because during Fiala's government, we realized that the approach, yes, put this V4 thing aside and make new friends in EU, doesn't work. It doesn't work. They destroyed the relations with our closest nations because a chimera of new alliances in EU, alliances with Germany or with other states, especially Western states of EU. But in 4 years, they achieved basically nothing. Yeah, they lost their allies and didn't obtain new ones. So we, as my colleague said, and he was right, we need each other really bad because we haven't much more other allies in EU. That's a simple truth.
What's your take on this, Peter?
Well, I wouldn't talk about the V3, maybe a V3.5, because we have seen not so long ago a turn also in Poland. I was imprecise. We didn't see a turn in the summer because there were presidential elections in Poland, and everybody was waiting that the Tusk government will be able to nominate someone and put him into the presidential seat of Poland, but it didn't happen. So Nawrocki became president of Poland. There is a continuity in Poland in the presidential seat, and I'm a bit optimistic that my colleague Karel, I don't think that elections are going to happen in 2 years in Poland. I think that they are going to happen earlier, because now it seems that the Tusk government is behaving like a lame duck. They are not really able to fulfill those promises what they made, and his coalition partners, if they don't want to disappear, they must act, and their time for acting is just shortens. And on the other hand, with the three countries, so Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, Prime Minister Robert Fico, and Prime Minister candidate Andrej Babiš have clearly voiced the need of the V4. So I think this is a guarantee, and also I think from the Slovaks' behavior regarding the Patriots for Europe group and the joining, it will also soon change. With Andrej Babiš in office in Prague, I think Fico's smear is going to get closer or even join to the Patriots for Europe group soon.
It would be weird to have a ex-communist and believer communist in Patriots for Europe, but we will see that. But coming back to our original question, if there is not going to be change in Poland in the next 2 years, we may want to consider that in these 2 years that are going to be elections approaching both in Slovakia and Hungary. Hungary next year, April. In Slovakia, probably the fall 2027. And in Slovakia, if we look at the polls, we can see that Fico is not leading the polls. And it does not mean that the opposition can form a government, but this kind of V3+1 can change in the future. And can, again, go back to V2+2. So if we take it in mind that political situations may change, then what is the option for these three countries to cooperate further in the coming 2 years if there's not going to be change in Poland? So how can further cooperation enhance? Because V4 only works with Poland institutionally, and if there are no Visegrad 4 meetings, there's no proper V4 presidency, then the V4 is not working, only the V3.
That's a tough question. Tough question.
Thanks.
To be honest, we haven't much time because these three prime ministers must show that the cooperation is the best way how to persuade their goals, the goals of Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary. And I think this is the only way how to persuade others and possible leading forces in Slovakia and even in Hungary, that the cooperation cannot be based on the particular person or the personal friendship or closeness because of ideology or goals, but that the cooperation in Central Europe is needed because the voice of those nations must be heard. I think this is the only way how to persuade the citizens of those, especially of those countries.
Well, I totally agree with you, but the realism is not that. So this is what you said, that would have been a pragmatic cooperation, and this is what these societies and these countries would need. On the other hand, what we see, And we see it also on European level that ideology just dominates everywhere, and ideology pushes down even the common sense in questions like, for example, the V4 cooperation. On the other hand, what I see as a problem is in the case of V4, that the V4, despite when we are talking about it, we always go back to the 1300s and also 1991, but at least we had more than 30 years after the regime changes, and the V4 has not institutionalized. And I think this is a huge problem, because when there are institutions, the institutions just by being, just by existing, it gives a kind of motion and gives a kind of life, puts a kind of life into a cooperation. Because if there's an institution, then there are meetings, then there are also forms and forums where to cooperate. Without that, it's really hard, because that's what, as we see, a new government comes with oppositional views, and then the whole cooperation is halted. Getting back to the question, I am neither in the position of giving advices to any of the governments, and I'm pretty sure they don't even need that. But I think what we are going to experience in the near future is that there will be a meeting with the Visegrad countries, but from Poland the president is going to be invited. And that will be a big question, whether he will come or not. I'm pretty sure he will. And that will give a basis to a Visegrad 3.5 cooperation, because it will also further strengthen the right in Poland, and it can be also a good forum where to pronounce the policies, the patriotic policies, even showing the Polish voters that there is an alternative, and the alternative is real.
Thank you for your answers. With regard to your statement that the V4 is not institutionalized, one might argue because it's partially institutionalized. The Visegrad Grant, the Visegrad rotating presidency. So in a teeny tiny sense, it is. And we also see that in some aspects and some policy areas, the Visegrad 4 worked despite these huge divergences in the past couple years. We've seen the joint statement of the Visegrad 4 plus Romania and Bulgaria regarding the agricultural policy, the agricultural products coming from Ukraine, for instance, or combating illegal migration, protecting the borders. How do you see the future aspects of the Visegrad cooperation according to today's stance in the field of policy areas? Where can it be the strongest one? So where could Visegrad function despite differences within the region? Should it be energy policy, energy security, agriculture, illegal migration, green policy? Where do you see the biggest strengths and most common mutual interests in the field of which harmonization of interests and cooperation, for instance, prior to European Council meetings could be realized?
I think this maybe I start with the quoting of Mr. Babiš. Yeah? Everything is about Green Deal right now, and our connection to EU and our membership of EU can be hampered by those policies posed by Brussels, but you need to find the topic for whole group of those states. And I think the environmental policy and especially migration, as you mentioned, are those two topics which are basically we are basically on the same page in Slovakia, in Hungary, in Czech Republic, but even in Poland, because we realize that this migration pact doesn't work. Yeah? I spent my holidays in eastern Germany, and I realized that every bridge at the Nisa River is patrolled by Polish army, and I asked why. Why is every bridge is patrolled by Polish army? And the answer was because of migration policy of Germany, who is returning the migrants back to the Poland, and that's mean basically end of the Schengen area. Yeah. For example, me as the tourist, as a white tourist, it wasn't a problem for me to cross bridge, but for others, for example, not that light-skinned tourists as Inns or others, it was a major problem. Yeah, to enjoy. To enjoy rights of Schengen area, and this is the main topics in Czech Republic, and were during the campaign that Green Deal, migration policy, and third thing was the abolition of veto in EU, and it was like unifying factor for whole opposition parties, for all opposition parties in Czech Republic, because we realized that a veto can save lot of our way of life. To be honest.
So getting back to what you have said, that you used the phrase, there's a teeny tiny institutionalization. And I agree with you, so there are some offices in Bratislava, but if we want to make big policy, we need big institutions, not just the tiny ones. On the other hand, you have also, Balázs, exactly and precisely said the areas where the cooperation can be and I'm pretty sure will be. Because these formations have already proved that together, jointly, they are able to even influence European policies. And this is what they have to do in the future. Just my colleague here said before, so the biggest trap, the deadly trap of the European Commission is the abolishing of the veto. And Robert Fico was clear on that this cannot be accepted. Andrej Babiš is clear on that, and also Viktor Orbán is clear on that. So this would be absolutely putting these countries to second-grade citizens, second-grade countries of the European Union, because from now on, if this decision-making process would change, our voice wouldn't be heard in the West. On the other hand, these issues, we've talked about, the migration issue, the energetics, also the Green Deal, these are all issues which, if they accept it, will influence our daily life and will make it harder. So, but again, it's been happening, and it's been happening for years, that there is alone poor Viktor Orbán, and he always says that no, and after that he has to explain to the press why he's saying no and why he is the only one who tries to make policies according to common sense. But now I do believe that he will have support on it. And we've seen on a verbal level from Bratislava that he got support, but it was a verbal one. But I think not only how Andrej Babiš operates and how persuasive he can be, I think the support will also be seen in votes when it comes to the European the European Committee. So I'm absolutely optimistic about the future. And yes, so there is, for example, just one more example, and after that I give you back the floor. Few years ago, when Slovakia and Hungary built out the gas interconnector, they were victims of criticism throughout the Western world, because why are we doing that? It's unnecessary. And now we see that this is the gas interconnector that is helping Slovakia to survive these embargo issues. So now, in the near future, I think a big energetic cooperation will be inevitable. We will have to do that, especially if someone's tried to push this Green Deal through, and on the other hand, we want to get rid of the Russian energy sources, which again raises the questions of physics.
Maybe I can tell a few words about energy in Czech Republic and energy situation and its relation to elections, because we experience really rapid inflation, especially because of prices of electricity and gas. And that's the major problem for Czech Republic, because we are most industrialized country in the EU, and the factories are affected the most because they are consuming a lot of energy. It means they have now the cash flow problems and stuff like that. But we Czechs, we know that we made the bad bet, to be honest, because we were oriented to Germany, Czech Republic, to economic point of view. We are really integrated into Germany, and Germany was building their economy on those two things: cheap raw materials from Russia and German technologies. This model right now is in problems, and Czechs are problems too, because we are almost part of Germany in economic point of view. So we are now looking for other solution, but there are not many ways where we can go. So we are now in the stage of looking for opportunities, to be manager speaking, but we are know that when the Germany is in problems, we are in problems too right now.
And what Karel has said totally applies to Hungary also. So we also dependent on the cheap Russian energy and the German technology. If Germany suffers, Hungary suffers too. And Hungary in the last 15 years has become much more industrialized as it has ever been. So apart from Germany, I don't know if you know that, but Hungary is the only country definitely in Europe, but I think 3 countries exist in the world where all the 3 big German car manufacturing companies, the Mercedes, the BMW, and the Volkswagen Group is present. These are present here. The factories are being opened. The BYD is opening a factory. And also there are industrial investments which need energy. And we have also experienced it, that Germany closing down the nuclear facilities, now struggling with the energy prices. And for example, there's the biggest company in its field, the BASF, which is closing down their factory in Germany. They make profit everywhere in the world except in Germany because of the prices. And it's one thing that the European Union is pushing through ideologies, because this is what is happening. On the other hand, the businesses, especially the big ones in capitalism, they do not work according to ideologies. What matters is the profit. If they are able to make profit, or if they are unable to make it. And if we have to buy the energy 4 times on a 4 times higher price than we planned, it means that we will go bankrupt. So it's not sustainable in the long run. We've just heard the news from Bulgaria. They have only 1 month reserve in oil, thanks to the newest sanctions which are made from Washington, D.C. So I think in this energy policy on a European level, a common sense must prevail in the near future. Otherwise, Europe is going to be a very good holiday destination, but not an important actor of the world policy and also the production.
And what is funny, those problems of automotive industry in Czech Republic is affecting the political life in Czech Republic and elections too. So the new emerging party, motorists themselves, motoristé sobě, didn't make it to the parliament because of their funny campaign or beautiful leaders. Yeah? That's because the workers in factories, in automotive industry are worried about their wages, worried about their way of life, worried about the competition from China, from other places of the world, and that's affecting directly the political life in Czech Republic. So that will happen in other countries in Europe, and it will be not take a long time. So I guess.
So just one more thought for that, to the motorists, to the car parties. So the having a vehicle, it had always been a symbolic, because in my opinion, it's always connected with freedom. Because when you have a car, you can sit into it and you can go wherever you want. It's somehow related to the original sense of the freedom. And what we are about to see, for example, the newest policy initiative from Brussels, that all the cars which are more than 10 years old should be taken to a technical control in every year. So you can see, I was in China 2 weeks ago, and I experienced what automotive industry they have and how young car park they have. On the other hand, what we hear in Budapest or in Bratislava or in Prague, it's a different picture. So pushing the people to buy EV cars without granting the funds, without helping, and taking away these motorist liberties, I'm not sure that the motorists are in, especially after reading their program, which was top-notch work, really.
Welcome, Uri. We were talking about motorists, cars. We heard that you had some troubles regarding cars getting here, but we are glad that you eventually arrived. And you haven't heard the gentleman's stance on my previous questions regarding the effects of the Czech elections on the bilateral relations and more specifically on regional cooperation. But I would get the chance to ask you this question as you arrived, that what do you think the Czech election will result in the sense that will it enhance the revival of the V4, or much rather a unique cooperation of this trilateral cooperation of the three countries, Czechia, Slovakia and Hungary, in the coming years?
First of all, I'm sorry for being late. It was a terrible traffic jam on the highway from Bratislava to Budapest. I understand Czech election as reaction on weakening the national sovereignty, whether in terms of foreign policy or in terms of economics, EU regulations, green politics, etc. And I think that this is the common base, definitely for three countries, Hungary and Slovakia. Our governments share the same prepositions, the same Euroscepticism against Brussels. However, I think that there might be opportunity to cooperate even with Poland on some issues like migration, for example. So I think I expect kind of revival of Visegrad Group.
Thank you. We discussed that in which policy areas can the cooperation be most enhanced. And we mentioned energy policy, migration, of course, agriculture. But my question is, can it be extended to foreign policy? Because the current clash within the group of the Visegrad group could be identified because of different foreign policy stances after the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Can Visegrad be a group of harmonized foreign policies, or should we stick with economic-based cooperation? Can the support of Ukraine be an issue that divides the V4 people, V4 members, or bring it together. We see that Poland is very categorical in that one, and the previous Czech government is very categorical in that one. Hungary and Slovakia's governments are categorical in a very different way. Now we're seeing the change in the Czech Republic, but can Poland be persuaded? And if not, will not be Visegrad a foreign policy group? Because in that sense, Visegrad is not going to be a high-level group if foreign policy is not included. One might argue, I'm not necessarily supporting this idea. Gentlemen?
Well, so Hungary's standpoint on the war on Ukraine, it's obvious and it's solid, and it has not changed since the beginning of the war. I think there are mutual grounds in the four countries on which even the Ukraine policy can be built up, because I think this is a mutual point that none of the countries wants to send their youth to war and wage a war against the Russians. So in Hungary, the government has been voicing from the first moment that we want peace, we don't want this war, this is not our war, and we don't want to be involved in it. However, and it's not voiced, I think, as it should be, that Hungary has made the biggest operation when it comes to support of the people in its history. So we have supported and helped the Ukrainians also, but we have not provided them weapons, which is kind of understandable if you want to end the war. On the other hand, the new Speaker of the House in Prague has been already appointed, and one of his first acts was that he removed the Ukrainian flag from the House of the Parliament in Prague. And we already know, and we also know and we are about to hear the Slovak standpoint, but Robert Fico was also kind of skeptical with this war, and as far as I know, he also doesn't want to get into it. So there is Ukraine, there is a specific question, I think, but the foreign policy is not only turning east, it can only turn west also, and maybe if there's a disappointment, so it's really rare that we agree on everything. Even I think individuals sometimes don't agree with themselves also, because yesterday I told something and I have a different opinion next day. So it's I think too much to ask from four governments, even four nations, to think the same about everything. On the other hand, we can find the mutual grounds. We can find those interests which connect us to each other and which makes us partners. And we have to voice those interests, and we've talked about it. Green Deal, energy policy, migration policy, the form in the Europe, not to change the voting system in the European Union, and this is it.
Karel, I haven't read too much on Ukraine, on the proposed Czech government program. Is it a coincidence? Because when talking about supporting Ukraine, it means economic support and or military support. And with regard to Slovakia, you have seen that Fico said that there's not going to be military support. On the other hand, private companies transferred arms there. One or other commentators would argue that we will see a similar pattern in the Czech Republic. So they're not going to be state-driven support in military aspect, but the private sector is going to do that because business is business.
Yeah, there is no mention of Ukraine in government program right now, but the president expressed his willingness to put some few sentences about Ukraine into new and remodel government program. We'll see. But the changes in foreign policy, especially towards Slovakia, will be there in Prague definitely compared to government of Petr Fiala. But what is the main main difference is because the Ukraine was the main topic of Fiala's government last 3 years, 3.5 years, yeah? And they put a lot of effort to campaign to make difference between contemporary governing coalition that's helping Ukraine. They're doing everything to support Ukrainian regime against the Russian aggression, and compared to stand of ANO, which is clearly pro-Russian, clearly pro-Kremlin, clearly anti-Ukrainian, and it's not that true, yeah. Because when you make some analysis of the events in Czech society in the last 3.5 years, you can see three different phases. Yeah, first phase was like 3 or 4 months after the full invasion to Ukraine. It was, I call it the humanitarian support and the time of big words, because everybody knows that current Prime Minister Fiala went to Kiev right after invasion. It was for him because he is the political scientist. He is a university professor, guy who wears glasses and suit everywhere, even into sauna, I guess. But he made this bold statement. We are here with Kaczynski, with Janta, with Morawiecki, and we bring the political support. It was bold move for him and bold move for then government or contemporary government. But after these few months, Czechs realized that the defiance of Ukrainian forces will not end in few months by the decisive victory, and this second phase, I call it like the reality call. That we realized that we have a lot of Ukrainian refugees. We've supported Ukraine very broadly with military material, with humanitarian aid, but and the topics of Ukrainian defense was the major topic during this whole 3 years. And the end of the 2024, it started third phase. I call it the hangover, because we realized that the situation in eastern Ukraine is worse and worse every day, that the support of Czech government was mainly in rhetorical level, because when some journalists went through the data of provided support, especially of the military aid, we realized that even Slovakia provides more weapons per capita than Czech Republic. So it was huge blow for supporters of current government, because they realized that it was a lot of talking and not a lot of doing. So now we are in the pragmatic phase, I guess, so that the verbal support of Ukrainian regime will be lower during the prime ministership of Mr. Babiš. That's the out of the question. It can happen. It can happen, but the humanitarian side of support will not be seized. And about this removing this flag, yeah, it's easy political points for you to put down the Ukrainian flag from Czech Parliament, but it means nothing, basically nothing.
Thank you, Juraj. As Karel touched upon, Fico's foreign policy regarding Ukraine is kind of an ambiguous one, because he said that not even a bullet for Ukraine, then the private companies sent weapons there. It was clearly anti-Ukrainian campaign that helped Fico secure his election win. On the other hand, he said that he provides unconditional support for Ukraine's EU membership. So what do you think Fico's foreign policy will focus on Ukraine in the coming years, and how will this affect the joint foreign policy statement, at least of these three countries regarding Ukraine?
Yes, I would say you see it in a very realistic way. That's how it is with Slovak foreign policy. It doesn't have just one direction. Fico is a pragmatic and populist, so he has one talk for society and his voters, another talk for his European partners, and maybe another talk for other political partners, maybe in V3. But nevertheless, generally we can say that the situation changed from being activist foreign politics towards Ukraine during previous government of Prime Minister Heger and Prime Minister Odor to more pragmatic, realistic government policy toward war in Ukraine. It means that we probably send less direct military aid to Ukraine now, but we increased military aid through private companies from Slovak private companies. At the same time, we continue in humanitarian aid to Ukraine. To mention about how Ukraine war relates to relations in between V3 or V4 countries, I would add that the situation before Czech elections wasn't very nice or kind to Slovakia from Czech Republic. The Czech Republic probably the main topic of their election campaign was not to be like Slovakia, to be like the undemocratic authoritarian East, and we need to save Western democracy in Czech Republic. They even stopped meeting and consultations between Czech and Slovak government during Fiala's term, and not even that. One minister of Czech government even took part in a demonstration against Fico a few months ago to support Fico's opponents, progressivists in Slovakia. So I would say that it wasn't wise and it wasn't friendly from Czech Republic against Slovakia. I would say that each country in Visegrad 4 has kind of maybe autonomy to make its own foreign policy, and we should respect it and still have friendly and cooperative relations among us. But now I think that at least these three countries will have more pragmatical approach to the war.
Thank you. No further comments on this, right? Okay, I've seen that you just raised the hand and then...
Well, I would just like to add that I think, as far as I see, the Czechoslovak relationship has never been so great since the disintegration of the federal state. So there is also space for repairing things. On the other hand, I understand this policy that when you are leading a state and you have weapon manufacturers, so as a leader of the country, you will not say them that, okay, I do not allow you to import or export your products to the countries where there is need for them. On the other hand, the big question is whether public funds are going to be spent on money or not. And according to the promises of both Robert Fico and Andrej Babiš, no public funds are going to go on weapons which are heading to Ukraine in the future, and this is the standpoint also in Hungary. So just
maybe a few words about this campaign against Slovakia and Hungary. I'm terribly sorry for that. I wasn't part of it, but I think it's not wise. And this is something we should avoid in every case. Sorry for that. Sorry Slovaks, sorry Hungarians.
Thank you. And we'd also like to open the floor for questions on behalf of the audience. If there is any question, please raise your hands. Otherwise, I will go on with my questions, and it's might get worse. Where? Oh, there. Yes.
Hi, guys. Thank you for sharing your information with us today. Now, I know we focused on the three countries that we're describing as the V3. Poland makes it the V4. Beyond the scope of that in the region, a country that's developing economically, strategically, it's an important location, would be Romania. Their electoral process was, some believe it was interfered with, that there were voter sentiments that were similar to what happened in Czechia and Slovakia. In what way would any of you perceive that Romania could be an indicator of a broader trend, maybe within the region, but also a partner in strengthening this current bloc and this idea that you see for the future of a V4?
And I would like to extend this question, if you may.
Please.
If you allow me to do so. Because why the V4? There are other forms of cooperation, the Slavkov 3, the Bucharest 9, and we have a bunch of them, the Free Seas Initiative. So why the V4, and how can we deal with Romania? We've seen there are issues like agriculture where we stand together with Romania and Bulgaria, for instance. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, I know it's a bit loaded and it's a bit dicey maybe to answer, so feel free to punt.
So, well, I think the V4, what makes the V4 and what makes it special, I think it's history. So if you look at the map and we see those countries who are part of it today, they used to be in the past one country, and there are historical elements which make this relationship special. And just how Balázs have already mentioned, so there are other forms of cooperation, which, for example, the Three Seas Initiative, in which Romania has a really special role because it gives the coast of one of the seas which is involved. So I'm pretty sure that if Romania or Bucharest has a wish, because sometimes it's so interesting that maybe it just seems to me like that way, but when it's a trend nowadays that governments, because of ideology and because of getting good points or aiming to get good points in the West, are sometimes making decisions which otherwise they wouldn't do. And I'm pretty sure that Bucharest also has a chance to get closer to these countries. We are both allies in the NATO and on the European Union. And I think none of the prime minister will say no when Bucharest comes and wants to support the V4 or support Hungary, and even say a few words in the European Commission. So I think it's open, but it's a question who should make the first step.
My mother once told me, when you don't know, just say you don't know. So I don't know, sorry.
Well, I would say the V4, it's more like the Middle Europe, and Romania, it's more Eastern Europe. Nevertheless, I would say that in the near future, there will be need to join Central and Eastern Europe together, because I would say that we would share a lot of policies, a lot of similar view to policies like migration, cultural, religious, Christian identity. I think that the cooperation between maybe 12 Central and Eastern European countries will accelerate and will be better than now. I would say that there is a big need for that because we need to be bigger partner at least to the Western countries of European Union.
Thank you. Any further question? Down here.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the discussion. My question is for Mr. Correll. Do you think that Babiš is going to be already present in the European Council of the 18th and 19th of December? And if that is going to happen, what will be the benefits for the V3 group? Thank you.
He is aiming for it, yeah, but there is, I think, 50-50 chance right now because there is a lot of unknown factors right now, especially with the connection to bargaining with current president, and he is able for block it for a long time. So it can happen, and 50-50, to be honest.
And one complementary question to Jure, because you were not here when Peter mentioned that there is if I understood you correctly, there is a possibility that Fico will make steps towards the Patriots for Europe. So is there any chance, what do you see, that the Patriots should have 3 prime ministers in the Council of Europe in the coming future? Can Fico join the Patriots group?
Well, it's not an easy question because as we see, the Fico hesitates. On the one hand, it should be pragmatic move to join Patriots because of Czech Republic. Babiš and Prime Minister Orbán are there, and it would make sense from the point of more closer cooperation of these countries to have stronger voice in European Union. But the true fact is that Fico is not, let's say, right-wing politician, if this term has any sense now. He's still, he's kind of old left. He was part of Communist Party before 89. He's a socialist and he's not ashamed of it. But he's not a socialist of a progressive style. He's an old-fashioned socialist. So I would say he would like to have some partners within this kind of political background. However, there are almost none in the current European Union. And that's why I think he might finally said yes to Patriots.
If I may add just one thing, it's so interesting because if we look at the politics in Slovakia, then we can say that things are a little bit on the contrary, because in the Czech Republic, in Hungary, or in Italy, the right side is the patriotic. And in Slovakia, it's on the contrary. So they have rather a patriotic left, and the right side is more often labeled as progressive. And it was a few weeks ago when Viktor Orbán met Prime Minister Robert Fico in Esztergom when they were celebrating the anniversary of the opening of the bridge between Párkány and Esztergom. And Viktor Orbán there made the remark that Robert Fico is the opponent, the leftist with who every patriotic would like to have. Because if there's a change, then the country is not in wrong hands. So that's what he he meant to measure. And from that point of view, I still do believe that they burned the bridges with the European socialists and so much, and the farewell was so unfriendly that I wouldn't be surprised if that accession would happen.
Yeah, for example, this last Saturday we had a conservative summit in Bratislava, and one of the partners were Patriots for Europe Foundation. And we thought that the people from Fico's party would like to attend the conference, but actually they didn't. They didn't show much attention. However, it doesn't mean that Fico will not join Patriots. It just means that, let's say, I would say, the kind of political philosophy or strategy behind everyday politics is not that important for him. But I would say that he will have no other chance.
But isn't this the matter that he has to sell it to his own electorate, that the Socialist Democratic Party is to be joining the Patriots? It's just
yes,
crazy.
I would say yes. I would say yes. And also the leading members of his own party, for example, one of his colleagues like to wear a Che Guevara T-shirt, and
Blanar.
It's a crazy stuff.
Crazy times. Any further question from the audience? Probably yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate the careful thinking through about the potentials for the cooperation that you're talking about. But I'm curious about the question of goals, and specifically, I'm assuming two issues came up. One that struck me. One is, of course, migration. The other is environment, ecology, so-called green policies, energy issues. Both of those. What I'm curious about is just to hear you articulate how you understand the V3 or possibly the V4 specific interests in relationship to European, kind of broader European policy on those two issues, because I'm assuming that you would all suggest that there's something disproportionately damaging to V3 countries about the way that European policy around energy and migration operates. Could you just sort of speak to that, just generally where you'd like to see things go?
I would say that on the issue of migration, there is a common view. Maybe all V4 countries oppose European Union attitude towards migration. They're against unregulated migration. We have seen in previous years. I would say the common interest is Christian heritage of this region, even though the public is divided in each of these countries. I mean, divided between more pro-European Union, progressive part of society, and on the other hand, Eurosceptic, more or less conservative part of society. But nevertheless, I mean, at least these three countries, even Babiš is not afraid now, it's surprising in a way, to embrace the Christian heritage and Christian culture of this region and need to protect it. And he doesn't afraid, of course, he doesn't have much other options, to use Christianity as something important for strengthening national sovereignty against the European Union. But even in Poland, there is a difference between Prime Minister Tusk and President Nawrocki. And I would say conservative Poland is much more eager to cooperate with conservatives in Visegrad 4. And not only in top political level, but also, and it's happening already, on the level of NGOs. Never before was so good contacts between conservative NGOs in Visegrad group than it's now. Slovak, Czechs, Hungarians, Polish NGOs cooperate, trying to think about the future strategy. And I think that this is a very good trend, and we should continue it. And it's very good that Hungary was kind of, I could say, a kind of leader in this direction. Your Prime Minister Orbán mentioned many times in his public speeches and also in his domestic politics that Christianity is the core of Hungarian identity, and not only Hungarian, European identity. And I think that our region will agree with it, will support it, and in this sense, our region could help also conservative forces in the West. They look on our region with a hope to somehow help them renew Europe.
Thank you.
Everything what said my colleague was right, maybe except the Christianity thing, because being Christian in Czech Republic means something a little bit different than being Christian in Hungary or Slovakia. Yeah, but that's true. But maybe I can bring one more field, which is good opportunity for those members of V3 and even V4, because I spoke with a very wise man, very close to government, and he told me, you know, Carlo, we need to build our national energy sources, which mean nuclear power plants, because we need sources for next decades and decades, and the Germany and Austria was always opposing it, or Germany did this step of leaving the nuclear energy for the future. So this is the other possible field where the Czech Republic, Slovakia, and Hungary, and even Poland in future can cooperate and be this nuclear island of Central Europe. Because as I know, the Slovakia has the biggest share of nuclear energy of those countries, and I think this is one of the fields which can help V3 be the leading player with, for example, with France and other pro nuclear countries.
Just so everybody who studies liberal art or philosophy, on the first lecture, he will meet with the phrase that the Europeanism is based on three pillars: the Roman law, the Greek philosophy, and the Christian morale. And I totally agree with what Juraj have said. So this Christianity has a special function in our society, and not just from a spiritual, but even maybe more importantly from a cultural point of view, even nowadays when everything is questioned. And on the other hand, what you've said about the Green Deal. So I think what these V4 countries, or what the patriots, when they try to block such initiatives, so we are not masochists also. We also want clean air, green fields, healthy environment. What we don't like is, and what these politicians don't like is, in my opinion, the hypocrisy. Because, for example, if you travel to Norway, you will experience that 90% of the vehicles are EV cars, but they are getting the funds for those EV cars by selling oil. So it would be important to set healthy goals and set achievable goals and work together jointly and do as originally the European Union should, and work as in the way as originally the European Union should be working. But now this is not what we experience, but because what we experience, it reminds us much more Moscow in the 80s, when they decided something, that this is the plan, this must be achieved, and then everybody tried to achieve it, whether it had a normal meaning or not. So I think that's how the European Union should a little bit make a few steps back and put the whole community on a rational basis. And if we did so, then we could get back where we should be among the biggest players in the world. Otherwise, we are just going to become a museum.
Thank you, colleagues. And if there is any further question, we have time for one last question.
I'm wondering what you mean by the Czech Republic having the different attitudes to Christianity from the Hungarian and the Slovakian. What do you mean by Hungarians and Slovakians meaning by Christianity? I don't think there's...
Yeah, I know, because as I assume I'm not a religionist, I'm political scientist, but I'm focusing on other fields. But the main difference with that when you say that you are Christian, that's mean always in Slovakia and Hungary, not always, but in vast majority of cases, that's mean Catholicism. Yeah, and in Czech Republic it is broad variety of Christianity, which not means only Catholicism, but other forms of Christianity. But you must know that those people are only 30% of Czech population, which consider themselves like Christians. There is vast majority of atheists, and for them is this cultural heritage connected in different way through the literature, through the history, not through the Christianity, and to explain the differences.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your attendance, and thank you for the audience for joining us for this discussion. It was our pleasure to be here, and I'm very grateful to our panelists for joining us here. We are grateful, and we'll see you at other events organized by the Danube Institute. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.